welcome tonight. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo condemns what he describes as Igbophobia, challenges citizens to overcome sentiment that widens the nation's fault lines. Governor Chukwuma Soludo restates his commitment to making Anambra State more livable as he marks the first anniversary of his assumption of office. Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, dismisses report accusing soldiers of killing children in the war against terrorists in the Northeast. At least 24 people killed as tornado rips through U.S. state of Mississippi. Search and rescue efforts underway following the massive devastation.
And on Business News tonight, Nigeria's forex reserves declined for the 10th consecutive week as gross reserves dropped by about $163 million week on week.
On sports news tonight, the Argentina Football Association names its training facility in Buenos Aires after World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi in honor of the Paris Saint-Germain superstar.
The just concluded electioneering season came with it tendencies that played up the nation's major fault lines, especially ethnic differences. And the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, is calling on Nigerians to retrace their steps. He has condemned particularly what he describes as Igbophobia, referring to the seeming aversion towards people of the southeastern extraction. Speaking at an event in Anambra State to commemorate Governor Chukwuma Soludo's 1 year in office, he stressed the need for citizens to move past sentiments that are better confined to history.
Had Chukwuma working with me as my economic advisor. We work very closely together. And he never one day misadvised me. Not one day. And I was so happy with him that I decided to send him to the central bank. Soon after I appointed him, somebody came to me and said, "Wow, you have ruined the economy of Nigeria." I said, "How?" He said, "An Igbo woman, Minister of Finance, an Igbo man, Governor of Central Bank, then you have really completed the task of running the economy of Nigeria." Now, I don't know why he said that, except for what I can call Igbophobia. It remains, it persists. And I like what Chief Enwayanwu said. I believe on the 13th of January 1970, Biafra died and was buried, actually in the house of my friend here, Chief Simon Okeke in Amechi. Is that correct? But when you have that type of thing that was said to me, and the type of thing that you know is going on, what I call, as I have just called it, what do we do with it? I believe we have to go back to the scripture, which says we must conquer evil with good.
Meanwhile, Professor Chukwuma Soludo says his first year as governor of Anambra State has witnessed remarkable progress. According to him, development in infrastructure, law and order, as well as economic transformation, amongst others, are making for a more livable Anambra state.
Professor Chukwuma Soludo came into power at a very distressing time when non-state actors were wreaking havoc in various local government areas, especially in Anambra South Senatorial Zone. The challenge is regardless, the governor has remained resolute with his 5-point agenda, number 1 being security and the restoration of law and order.
Congratulations to you, Mr. Governor. Congratulations. God has done.
1 year on, there is cause to celebrate as Governor Soludo invites thousands of dignitaries to the International Convention Center in Awka to give account of his stewardship. Chief Emmanuel Iwayawu is the chairman of the occasion.
For Anambra people, I want to let you know that in a larger sense, this is a Thanksgiving Day for Anambra. Anambra people should be very proud and very grateful to God. God has blessed Anambra people. Anambra State, this enclave called Anambra, is the cradle of Igbo development in education, Igbo development in industry, and in other areas.
Governor Soludo came with the 5 solution pillars, namely security, law and order.
Then, a summary of Governor Soludo's developmental strides in the past 1 year is played in a 30-minute documentary. Over 261 kilometers of road projects ongoing across the 3 senatorial zones of the state, booming economic activities as the sit-at-home order takes less effect, just to mention a few. The governor speaks more on the journey to a livable and prosperous Anambra state.
When we came, the pillars to make this livable and prosperous homeland to happen, the critical infrastructure required to make this happen, include the issue of transportation, especially land in the case of Anambra here. Our water transportation will also be very critical. When we came, we immediately declared a state of emergency on roads, but also power infrastructure, technology, and so on.
In his goodwill message, the former president of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, affirms that Governor Soludo has not disappointed him and asks him, among other things, to make Anambra the leading oil palm producing state in the country.
Let me advise, please, on agriculture, let us take not more than 3 or 4 items. You seem to want to go for palm, oil palm. Do it and let Anambra become the leading oil palm producers in Nigeria.
In attendance at the event is the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last general election and former governor of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Obi, and former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, the Obi of Onitsha, His Royal Majesty, Nnemeka Achebe, among other important personalities. The occasion is spiced up by a colourful performance from the Anambra cultural troupe.
As residents of Adamawa State await the announcement of a date for the supplementary governorship election, Governor Ahmadu Fintiri has accused the resident electoral commissioner, Mr. Hudu Yunusa Ari, of complicity in the disputed poll. This follows the emergence of an audio file suspected to be a recorded telephone conversation between Mr. Yunusa Ari and the electoral officer of Fufore local government area. However, the APC governorship candidate, Mrs. Aishatu Binani, has called on INEC to review the results of the poll. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, has this report.
The total number of PVCs collected in places where elections were not held amounts to 37,016 collected in areas. The result is therefore considered to be inconclusive. Thank you very much.
That announcement by the returning officer for the governorship election in Adamawa State has been generating reactions.
It's already been done, and they know who the results
Governor
are clear for all to
Finturi
see,
believes
as
the decision was misguided.
So what precisely has
he was a
led to
guest
this
on Channel's television
inconclusive
breakfast
nature of
program,
elections
Sunrise
in
Daily.
Adamawa?
I think because of the inexperience and the mindset of the REC, he misled the returning officer. There was no need for it. I was leading by over 31,000 in Ogun. He led by 12,000. Issues in various units across the state was over 30,000, but the man was declared. The same thing with Kaduna. The same thing in several states, if you go around. And he went and concocted some units, some PUs that have already been concluded.
This stance of the incumbent governor is further buttressed by the emergence of an audio file in which the Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Mr. Udu Yunusa Ari, is alleged to have made an attempt to subvert the outcome of the election.
Hello?
Hello, sir. Abin da faru sa sun zo sun dauki abun nan sannan suna duka na da collection officer suka ce mun hada baki da jan siyasa mu muka yi.
To abin da za ka yi yanzu, dama ka san na baka from business. Duk abin da za ku yi ku cika. Ku taimaki matan nan. Dan yanzu daga wani higher level na sami waya.
Okay, sir.
Duk abin da yake gudana an faɗa mun. Ka gane ko?
Mr. Ari has denied allegation.
You should help the women. Help them because they're weak. And it was interpreted that a candidate should be helped. This is not true. It's read upside down.
But Governor Finturi has some doubts.
INEC as an institution is not in doubt. The character of the REC is in doubt.
If the REC had called on the electoral
reacting to Governor Finturi's allegation, the All Progressives Congress APC governorship candidate in the election, Mrs. Aishatu Binani, has asked the Independent National Electoral Commission to review the results of the election.
Officials were being held hostage and what have you. So we wrote to INEC, pleading with INEC, please come to our aid and review those the result of this 16 local government, since you have the powers to do that within 7 days, and you have done that for Abia State, you have done that for Enugu State, you have done that for a constituency in Kano State, that is for Dogwa. So Adamawa shouldn't be different.
INEC declared the March 18 governorship election in Adamawa State inconclusive after it cancelled the election in 69 polling units following reported incidents of violence and overvoting. Meanwhile, the results as announced by INEC show Mr. Finturi is in the lead with 421,524 votes ahead of Mrs. Binani, who scored 390,275 votes. While residents of Adamawa State await the date for the supplementary election in the 47 wards of the state, the parties have to return to the drawing board to ensure they gather more votes from the over 37,000 votes that are up for grab.
In part two, after the break, disputes arising from the just concluded governorship election in the country linger. PDP and APC in Kaduna State tackle each other over the outcome of the poll in the state. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo condemns what he describes as Igbophobia, challenges citizens to overcome sentiments that widen the nation's fault lines. Governor Chukwuma Soludo restates his commitment to making Anambra State more livable as he marks the first anniversary of his assumption of office. Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, debunks report accusing soldiers of killing children in the war against terrorists in the northeast. And at least 24 people killed as tornado rips through U.S. state of Mississippi. Search and rescue efforts on the way following the massive devastation. In Kaduna State, there's also been a war of words between the APC and PDP following the outcome of the governorship election. The candidate of the PDP, Mr. Issa Ashiru, has rejected the election result, which declared Senator Obasanjo of the APC winner. Speaking for the first time after the result was announced by INEC, Mr. Ashiru describes the result as a rape of democracy. He vows to challenge the results in the court of law in order to reclaim the mandate which he says was freely given to him by the people of Kaduna State. However, despite winning the governorship election in Kaduna State, the APC is alleging that the main opposition party, the PDP, rigged the election in about 7 local government areas where it won. The party vows to challenge the alleged electoral fraud in court, which it claimed took place in Jukun, Kajuru, Soba, Markafi, Ikara, Zagontek, Ketaf, and Kudan local government areas. Addressing a news conference to review the outcome of the polls, the Kaduna State APC Secretary, Mr. Yahaya Pate, notes that the figures did not conform with the realities on the ground, especially the reported low turnout of voters on election day. Meanwhile, the PDP national leadership has rejected the result of the governorship election in Ogun State, which declared Governor Dapo Abiodun winner. The National Publicity Secretary of the party explained that the declaration is at variance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 and guideline issues by INEC for the conduct of the election. He was speaking at a media briefing in the nation's capital, Abuja.
It is instructive for INEC to note that with the council votes, the margin of lead between Mr. Dapo Abiodun of the APC and the PDP governorship candidate, Honorable Oladipupo Adebutu, is not in excess of the total number of permanent voters cards collected in polling units where the election did not hold or cancelled by INEC, citing destruction of polls. Whereas the number of permanent voters cards PVC collected in places where elections were not held or cancelled is 33,750. The margin of lead between the two candidates as announced by INEC returning officer is 13,915, thereby invalidating the declaration and return made by INEC. In such circumstance, Section 24, subsection 3 and 4 of the Electoral Act 2022 expressly mandate INEC to appoint a new date for the conduct of the polls in the polling units where election did not hold or cancelled before any return can be made. It is therefore reckless and highly condemnable that INEC would cancel PDP winning votes and hurriedly declare and return the defeated candidate of the APC in gross violation of the law and total disregard for the will of the people as expressed at the election.
As the tempo of political activities decline, the Department of State Services, DSS, has once again alerted of plans by some desperate persons to disrupt the peace in the country. The spokesperson of the DSS, Mr. Peter Afunaya, issued the alert in a statement today. The The DSS notes that while some political players are abiding by its earlier advice to follow the rules of engagement and explore the option of the court for redress, others are inciting violence. It warns that the service will not tolerate a situation where persons or groups take laws into their hands and champion anarchy. It goes on to say that necessary measures are being taken to checkmate those who do not wish the country well. Away from politics to issues arising from the fight against insurgency, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, has dismissed a news report by Reuters accusing soldiers of killing children in the war against terrorists in the northeast. General Yahaya also denied the report, which also claims that the military allegedly aborted over 10,000 babies by women and girls rescued from insurgents. The Army Chief was speaking in Abuja when he appeared before the Special Independent Investigative Panel on Human Rights Violations in Counter-Insurgency Operations in the Northeast.
The armed forces are professional armed forces guided by rules and regulations under elected government with President Commander-in-Chief there and institutions that are there, we all know. Some people from other places, I am telling you, it's not a joke. Some people still thought we're on top trees. That's why they are writing what they are writing sometimes, or thinking like they're thinking. This army is professional, and the army work is universal. We have gone on courses. General Wiwa is here. There is nowhere we have gone we have not performed. If you go to all institutions in the world, including US and UK, you'll see Nigerian name there. Sometimes the first to accept what? So we're professional people, we're competent people here. And we are Nigerian before we are Army and Navy and Air Force. We see nothing good in us, everything good in them. Whatever is done in other places, we don't ask questions. We just say it's in US, in UK, in Ukraine. Everything that happens is emanate from the society. It's to address their problem there, that whatever. Some values are universal, but we have to look how to domesticate them here. It's not everything that is done in UK and US, that is whatever. But you can see how it is.
A rather sad story in Ogun State where 3 persons have been reported killed while 2 others sustained injuries in an accident involving a tanker laden with substance suspected to be premium motor spirit at Lafenwa in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. According to officials of the Federal Fire Service, the incident occurred when the tanker lost control and rammed into 2 vehicles and a building. The Deputy Governor, Mrs. Noimot Salako Oyedele, who represented the governor, has assessed the situation and sympathized with families of the victims.
It's not the best of times for residents of Lafenwa area of Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, as they have to grapple with the aftermath of this accident, which eyewitnesses say occurred around 9 p.m. on Friday, March the 24th. This tanker, laden with premium motor spirit, apparently lost control due to excessive speeding and rammed into this building and 2 vehicles. The place was immediately cordoned off by men of the federal and state fire services, the police and other traffic managers, while what's left of the fuel transloaded and evacuation of the tanker followed as residents grappled with the reality of the unfortunate incident.
And unfortunately, there were people there doing their normal businesses when the accident occurred. So as we are speaking now, there are still people under that tanker, as you can see.
Mr. Ilesomi Paul is the superintendent of the Federal Fire Service. He sums up his findings.
Immediately we go there and we secure we blanket the fire that gushed out from the tank. So what we do, we discover that 2 suspected dead body and 1 casualty, which we have rushed them to the hospital. That was yesterday. Today, as they were lifting the tank, so we suspected another a lifeless body again, which has also been taken to the morgue.
The Ogun State Deputy Governor Noimot Salako Oyedele arrived at the scene for an on-the-spot assessment and was briefed by some of the first responders on ground.
Thereafter, she unfolds how the state government intends to handle the unfortunate incident.
We want to assure you that the reports we are getting that this road happens to be an accident hazard with trucks going through and causing incidents here will be looked at. Our Commissioner for Transportation is here. We'll look at how we can work together with the transportation and other agencies to either divert truck traffic from this road or propose ways to alter the road that can reduce accidents here. We'll also be working with the State Emergency Management Authority, who will be here on Monday to assess losses of people here so that we can see how we can compensate them for their losses, and also to support the families of the bereaved at this very trying time.
With the evacuation of the fuel tanker over, the Lafenwa area has been declared safe for residents and road users alike.
So infrastructure development here in Lagos, the state government says the ongoing test drive on the Blue Rail line will be concluded by the end of April. According to the State Metropolitan Area Transport Authority Corporate Communication Officer, Mr. Kolawole Ojelabi, safety measures have been put in place for full commencement of the operation. He adds that the second phase of the project is built for completion in the next 3 years.
This is the Marina train station of the Blue Rail line, a project kicked off in 2010 under the administration of former Governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Fashola, and 13 kilometers of the first phase delivered after 12 years under the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Students, residents, and civil servants make their way to the Marina train station to experience a free ride to Mile 2. Before getting on board, each passenger must have a state travel card that will be checked on the ticket validator device. The corporate communication officer for the State Metropolitan Area Transport Authority explains why the government is test driving before operation.
We are currently going through the testing, and for us to begin full passenger operation, we must reach a threshold of how many miles that we have traversed. So this test will go on till about end of April, when we feel that we will have sufficiently acquired enough mileage for us to commence passenger operation. The good thing about the second phase is that it is at grade, meaning that it will not go over the bridges like we have for this particular one. So it's going to be at grade. And at Okokomaiko, we are going to have a depot at Okokomaiko. So 3 years, we should be able to complete it.
It's not just the Cowrie card that can be used for transportation purposes. The state resident identity card can also be used to commute on the state water, road, rail transport system, among other benefits.
The new Lagos State resident card tagged LAG ID. So it's now a card with 28 applets on it. It has a chip and a pin. It's also contactless. And what it means is that the Cowrie card, which we use to board all the Lagos State transportation system, you actually have an applet on that card. So once you put money on that applet, you can use it on the ferries, on the buses, on the trains when they start, and all of that. Then when it comes to healthcare, Lashma would also have an applet on that card. So an applet is basically just a segment of the chip where it performs its own independent function. And we're onboarding all other government services, not only for government services, other value-added service products will also be onboarded onto the card.
Time to board the train. Residents make their way through the access point. Piloting the train is a young woman who's excited about her new job.
At first, I felt it's going to be a hard task for me, but I have to love the job because I like to learn. I like to dare things that are way bigger than me. So I joined the driving department because I want to learn. I want to be a train driver, not just here, but maybe other countries as well.
Commuters commend the state government for investing in rail infrastructure.
No, I think it's a great achievement. Long time coming, but it's finally here. I think it will be a game changer to move from Marina to mile 2 or mile 12 in the speed of time it will go will be amazing. I think it's great for progress as Lagos develops towards being the megacity that it wants to be.
Aside from the 27-kilometer blue line, Lagos State also has 6 other rail lines in the works: green, yellow, purple, brown, orange, and the 30-kilometer red line project, which is already under construction and nearing its completion stage.
Some bank customers are still lamenting the prevailing Naira scarcity despite directives from the Central Bank of Nigeria to deposit money banks to evacuate banknotes as well as open on Saturdays and Sundays. Our correspondent Kelly Egiga visited some banks and ATMs here in Lagos and Ogun State to monitor compliance.
It appears there is no end in sight just yet to the biting currency crisis and scarcity, which has inflicted much pain on millions of bank users across the country. Some banks comply with the CBN's directive to open on Saturday, but at some banks and automated teller machines, the situation remains tense and tempers flare. Damilola Fajori, a software engineer, shows me a mail from his bank inviting customers, but is left disappointed and stranded like many others.
I received a mail that banks will open up on Saturdays and Sundays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. only for me to get down to the bank, and I found that the bank was closed directly itself. And now my ATM has expired and I don't really have any other way to move the money from my account.
I've been to several banks on this road and they are not attending to customers at all. And I came here, my number is 226 and it's so rowdy, there's nobody to organize the customers. I got an email yesterday saying the bank will be open to dispense cash today, and it's almost 12 p.m. and the bank is not even open.
There is no access into the bank. To get money from the ATM is difficult. Sometimes one of the ATM will work. After working a while, it will stop. And everybody will line up. We have about 6 ATM there. And the ATM, only one is working.
This elderly couple visits the bank but leaves almost immediately as they're unable to access the banking hall. In Ogun State, the Magboro area precisely, I secretly record the audio of a security agent. He tells me these ATMs have not been functional for weeks.
When you say it's not been working for long, like, are you referring to 1 week or 2 weeks? Or?
More than that.
Why?
See, I don't know. If you ask me since presidential election, it has not been working.
Meanwhile, this pregnant woman, like others, decry the failure of online transactions, while other users accuse POS agents of multiple withdrawals.
Example, I wanted to do scan. They told me they don't accept transfer, and I don't have ATM for that bank that day. I have to go and be looking for someone to pay before I can get that money. Just 3-5.
And while some are left stranded, some others eventually withdraw their cash and can wear a smile.
It's better than before. I collect 40,000 now. So it's from MTN. I wanted to collect more, but they said there is no network inside on counter. So that's why I just collect 40,000 now. I'm just going back. Possibly I will come back tomorrow.
They don't know that there will be money at no bank. I don't know where to display money.
It's a big bag of mixed feelings for bank users and customers. They say they have monies in their account, but have to go through a traumatic and agonizing experience to access their own cash, and they want answers as soon as possible. But we are also learning right here on the streets of Lagos that the reason why some of these commercial banks are not open today, despite the directive from the country's apex bank, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, is that some of these banks are yet to receive cash from the apex bank, and that is why the gates and doors of some of these banks have remained shut despite the directive from the country's apex bank. From Lagos, I am Kelly Egiga reporting for Channels Television News.
It's a similar scenario in Kaduna State. Long queues of customers remain common sight at banks. That's despite measures by the CBN to ease the cash crunch. The residents are lamenting the difficulty in getting money.
Reprieve is yet to come the way of residents of Kaduna State who in the past 2 months are finding it difficult to access cash following the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Despite the disbursement of old Naira notes to deposit money banks by the Central Bank on Thursday, most automated teller machine points in Kaduna metropolis were out of cash on Saturday morning, to the disappointment of customers who had arrived at the banks early to make withdrawals.
I came to this place this morning to see if I could access cash, though I've been here since 6:45, and I spoke to the security guard and he made me understand that the bankers are going to be here between 9 o'clock and 10 a.m. I think yesterday that cash was given over the counter, between 100,000 to 500,000 was assessed. So he made me understand that cash is going to be loaded on the ATM today. So since then we've written our name and we are waiting for the officials to arrive this morning to see if actually what we've been told we could collaborate it via the ATM.
My sincere appeal to the federal government is that they should make more money available for us, because we made to understand as if the cash is not that kind available for all the banks, especially the new notes that we are trusting that we should be seeing. We have not been receiving new notes. It is the old notes that they are replicating every time. So we beg the federal government to help us. Let us also have the new notes.
Only a few ATM points within the state capital are dispensing cash on Saturday. The ones located along the Yakubu Gowon Way in Kaduna metropolis were dispensing only old notes, while some allow customers to withdraw a minimum of 10,000 Naira in 2 transactions. Some allow the customers to withdraw up to 40,000 Naira in 2 transactions. However, that comes at a cost.
Yesterday, customers were allowed to withdraw 10,000 Naira at once. But today, we are allowed to withdraw 10,000 Naira twice. And each transaction is 35 Naira deducted from your account. So which means in every 10,000 Naira you withdraw today twice, you'll be charged 70 Naira. And other banks are to withdraw 2,000 Naira.
You can withdraw as much as possible as 40,000 Naira. So, but you withdraw is like 2 times 20,000 in 2 places. But if you are using another bank, you can withdraw 5,000. I think it's for 4 times or 5 times. So me, I'll just withdraw 10,000.
Most of the banks also opened for business on Saturday in compliance with the CBN's directive. The residents of Kaduna State will be hoping that the commercial banks would, as a matter of urgency, ensure enough cash is made available in the coming days.
To all the stories now, in commemorating the 2023 International Women's Day, tech giants Google and the UK Tech Hub in Nigeria have partnered to award $3 million in Google Cloud credits to women startup founders in Nigeria in order to bridge the gender gap. The Deputy British High Commissioner to Nigeria, who listed some women-specific programs launched this month, explained that the partnership is in continuation of the UK government's commitment to supporting women to break barriers in the male-dominated tech space. Our technology correspondent Victor Matthias has more on the event which held in Lagos.
In the year 2022, female-owned enterprises in the African tech ecosystem raised between $188 to $203 million as they pitched their ideas to investors, partners, and ecosystem stakeholders globally, a far cry from the $4.6 billion raised by their male counterparts, and also recorded a decline from the $290 million raised in 2021.
What criteria do you use
Women founders, investors, and ecosystem stakeholders are seated in this hall at the behest of the UK Tech Hub in Nigeria in partnership with Google for Startups to brainstorm on why women raise far less.
We are here because we want to drive the impact. So as founders and entrepreneurs, I think it's really, really important, and I say this all the time, you've got to do your homework on who you're speaking to and what investors you're speaking to. You've got to be clear on understanding what their mandate also is.
What gap is your proposition trying to fill? Or is it just for bragging rights? Or is it because somebody else is doing it and is seemingly successful? Or you truly want to do this? This is the reason why you are doing it. This is the gap that you have identified in the marketplace, and therefore this is what you want to do. It has to be crystal clear.
The partners then shed more light on the partnership to award $3 million in Google Cloud credits to women founders in Nigeria.
It's so important for us to lean in proactively and very consciously in supporting women entrepreneurs, in just really showcasing themselves, in having the tools and the empowerment to be able to attract all the support that they need, including funding, to be able to grow their businesses.
This is just the beginning of the conversation. Today is the Google Cloud credit, where they no longer have to worry about certain aspects of their technology and they focus on innovation. We're having engagements with investors and many of such type things, and they need to just stay close and keep their ears closed. We're here to make sure that every woman in Nigeria who is functioning in the tech ecosystem has a great chance of success.
The British Deputy High Commissioner says the UK government is unwavering in its commitment to empowering women, as this is one of many other programs.
What we're doing is looking at a collaboration with Google, specifically on $3 million worth of kind of credit that female businesses and business owners in the tech space can engage with. And that's coupled with the work we've already done ourselves on the Future Females Business School and the Angels Academy, essentially Angels Academy around trying to encourage investment in female tech across Africa, but here in Nigeria, and the Future Females Business School really looking at how we can get women involved and empowered and able to benefit, frankly, from the opportunities that Nigeria has.
Venture capital on the continent has been relatively successful. It has helped less than 3% of startups with female founders. It is hoped that gatherings like this will shape the understanding of the participants in the technology funding landscape and position them to secure the funding they require moving forward. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business with Laddie Williams.
Thanks, Melinda. In business news, Nigeria's forex reserves declined for the 10th consecutive week, and that's according to latest data from the central bank. A breakdown of data shows gross reserves dropped by $163.67 million week on week to close at $35.78 billion as of March the 23rd. Cumulatively, the country's reserves have lost $992 million in about 71 days. And forex market trading activity at the FNDQ exchange was mixed this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets rose by 64.62% week on week to over $1 billion. A further breakdown shows total value of transactions at the INE window climbed by 82.73% to $934.43 million, while transactions at the FX derivatives market fell by 0.34% to $142.07 million. Meanwhile, the value of the Naira strengthened marginally by 0.02%. That's about 8 kobo in value to 461 Naira, 17 kobo against the dollar at the NAFEX window, when compared to 461 Naira, 25 kobo to close with in the previous week. And deposits at U.S. lenders posted the biggest decline in nearly a year during the week as multiple bank failures triggered the latest bout of global financial turmoil. The decline was entirely due to a record plunge in deposits at smaller institutions. According to data released Friday by the Federal Reserve, bank deposits fell by $98.4 billion to $17.5 trillion in the week ended March the 15th. Deposits at small banks slumped $120 billion, while those for 25 largest firms rose almost $67 billion. And the domestic equities market closed the week in the red zone as the NGX All Share Index marked a decline about 0.04%. Week recorded 3 sessions of negative closes against 2 days of gains. However, activity levels were mixed as trading volumes increased by 97.8% week on week, while value traded declined by 6.5%. Also, sector performances were mixed as the consumer goods, industrial goods, and insurance indices declined, while the banking index advanced. The oil and gas index closed flat. From the insurance sector, Suno Assurances emerged top performer for the week, followed by Lasako Assurance, while NCR Nigeria crashed this week, leading the underperformers. The Nemeth topped trades for the week, followed by Transnational Corporation and UBA, contributing 73.89% and 21.21% to the total equity volume and value traded in the week. And that's it on Business News. It's back to Melinda with the rest of News at 10.
Many thanks, Ladi. The federal government says it has signed contracts for the dredging of rivers Niger and Benue. The Minister for Water Resources, Mr. Suleiman Adamu, stated this while briefing journalists during his visit to Benue State to commission the Lower Benue River Basin Development Authority's rice processing plant and the pilot Shonga integrated farm practices in Makurdi, the state capital. He's confident that the project will address the flooding challenge in the country and provide irrigation for the farmers.
Activities pick up at the Lower Benue River Basin Development Authority in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, when the Minister for Water Resources, Mr. Suleiman Adamu, came calling. The 2 projects ready for commissioning of the 16 tons per hour rice processing and packaging plant and the Songa integrated farm practice, which has poultry, fishery, and greenhouse farms. He also laid the foundation for additional office building for over 100 staff. The minister later held a meeting with the management and staff of the federal government agency.
The river basins, as far as I'm concerned, you have no business being here if you cannot expand the capacity of agriculture. If you do not provide more irrigable land, if you are not enablers for farmers around you to learn, to improve. And that is why we restored the agricultural services, restored the extension service, so that we can be relevant to the farmers around us.
We have been able to establish two Songhai farms. The one we have in Makati, we have just commissioned, is more or less a pilot. The really big one is at Doma, covering where we have 50 hectares of land earmarked for it. But presently, we are only developing 6 hectares.
Mr. Adamu also gives update on the plan to dredge rivers Niger and Benue.
We have initiated the process. In the long run, that might help with flood control, improve navigation, maybe even reclaim some land for irrigation purposes and tourism. But believe me, it's like in every other huge infrastructure endeavor like this, water resources endeavor, this is something that is going to take a long time to achieve.
While the contract for River Benue is awarded at the cost of 50 million euros, the contract for dredging River Niger is awarded at the cost of $14 billion. The contractors are expected to deliver over the next 20 months.
Now, welcome to the world of sports. Super Eagles head coach Jose Peseiro has admitted that his players were unlucky to suffer a shock home loss at the hands of Guinea-Bissau in a 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier in Abuja. Guinea-Bissau, who are ranked a lowly 118th in the world by FIFA, pulled off a 1-0 win against the star-studded Super Eagles on Friday to go top of Group A with 7 points, while the 3-time African champions dropped to second with 6 points. Both teams will clash again on Monday at the September 24th Stadium in Bissau in continuation of the qualifying series. The Argentina Football Association has named the training facility in Buenos Aires after World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi, as the 7-time Ballon d'Or winner was honored in his hometown. The Argentina Football Association said all its facilities, including the new housing complex, will now bear the name of Messi. Messi, along with President Claudio Tapia and national team manager Lionel Scaloni, unveiled a plaque bearing the 35-year-old's name at the property. Messi ended Argentina's 36th wait for a World Cup after leading the Albiceleste to victory in Qatar. The Paris Saint-Germain superstar finished as the best player of the tournament and won the Golden Ball for his heroics. England coach Gareth Southgate says the Three Lions have sympathy for the war in Ukraine, but they are fully focused on beating their opponents in their Euro 2024 qualifying match. England host Ukraine at Wembley on Sunday, and the second match of the series, having opened their campaign with a 2-1 away win in Italy on Thursday. Ukraine has been engulfed in war with Russia since Moscow launched what it called a special military operation in the area last year. Sunday's game at Wembley is England's first home match since the World Cup, while Ukraine are unable to play their games in their own country owing to the war. A newly appointed Bayern Munich coach Thomas Tuchel says the current squad is among the best in Europe, and taking over the German champions comes with instant responsibilities and 3 titles on the line. Tuchel, who left Premier League side Chelsea last year, signed a contract with the 6-time Champions League winners until 2025. Tuchel's first match will come as soon as April the 1st after the ongoing international break. Bayern Munich will meet Bundesliga leaders Borussia Dortmund, the club that Tuchel led from 2015 to 2017 before he left for Paris Saint-Germain. That's a wrap on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Melinda with the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Victor. On the international scene, after years of diplomatic pressure, Paul Rusesabagina, a former hotel manager portrayed as a hero in the Hollywood film Hotel Rwanda, has been released from prison in Kigali. 2 years ago, he was sentenced to 25 years for terrorism by a Rwandan court in what supporters call a sham trial. A government spokesperson said his sentence had been commuted by presidential order. The 68-year-old is credited with saving about 1,200 people during the 1994 genocide. US President Joe Biden has called the news of his release a happy outcome. He will remain in Rwanda for a few days before traveling to Doha and then the United States, where he lives. And talking about the United States, at least 24 people have been killed after a tornado ripped through the state of Mississippi, with more believed to be trapped under the rubble of buildings. It has been described as one of the deadliest tornadoes to have ever hit Mississippi, causing devastation in several rural towns, tearing down trees, power lines, and flipping cars on their sides, as well as toppling power lines. Several states in the south of the United States are also braced for powerful storms. It is reported that one of the affected towns, Rolling Fork, located in western Mississippi, has essentially been wiped out, with lots of families hurting. And the main news again. The former president of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, today condemned what he described as Igbophobia. He challenged citizens to overcome sentiments that widen the nation's fault lines. Governor Chukwuma Soludo of Anambra State has restated his commitment to making the state more prosperous and livable as he marked the first anniversary of his assumption of office in Awka, the state capital. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Akinlami on behalf of the team. Good night.